Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rika Melinea Safitri. I am a class and 5th semester. The first, I say thank you for Ma'am Fitria Rahmawati as a lectures of Semantics to give me chance to the review for the fourth material of Semantics. And now I want to explain or review the fourth materials here. For the first materials is the ideas about meaning, the source of meaning and some misconceptions. There are the first, dictionary. Dictionary is one of the source of meaning that it first used by everyone to find the meaning of a word. The problem here is we have to consider that in order to understand the dictionary definitions of a word, we must know the meanings of the word used in the definition. Dictionary can be practical aids for people who already speak the language, not to make theoretical claims about the natures of meaning. So, we might use the dictionary as a source of meaning, but we must stick to the principle that it is based on the speakers of language the word meaning. For the next is mental image. Words often do seem to conjure up particular mental image. The problem here is just mental image is that the image associated with a word tends to be a typical of or ideal example of the kind of thing the word represents. Any word can be used to present a wide range or thing, any one of which might or might not be typical of its kind. So, we can use a mental image as a source of meaning, but it cannot be completely true because it must depend on its context. And then, reference considers the actual thing a word refers to, that is, its relevance. As one aspect of the word's meaning, we might use a reference as a source of meaning, but in abstract matter, such as the word angel, the reference cannot be used as a source meaning. If there are two words that refer to the same thing, they should be substitute for each other. And then, meaning and truth. Here, we have to associate meaning with truth condition. For example, John sleep. So, if this is to be used as source of meaning, then John must really exist. And the last is meaning and language use. Here, we can make this a source of meaning depend on where the situation and conditions of the language use. The second materials is the names or meaning relationship. A name is a name invited by provided for an internet user in order to conceal the user's real identity and in some cases to expressly create a new and separate internet identity. Some relations between lexical items include hyponymy, hypernymy, synonymy, and antonymy, as well as homonymy. Hyponymy and hypernymy refers to a relationship between a general term and the more specific term that fall under the category of the general term. For example, the color red, green, blue, and yellow are hyponyms. They fall under the general term of color, which is the hypernym. For example, color is hypernym, and red, green, blue, yellow is hyponyms. Hyponyms and hypernyms can be described by using a taxonomy as seen in the example. And then synonymy. Synonymy refers to words that the pronouns and spell differently but contain the same meaning. For example, happy, joyful, glad. And then antonymy. Antonymy refers to words that are related by having the opposite meaning to each other. There are three types of antonym. The first is graded antonym. The second is complementary antonyms. And the last is relational antonyms. For example, dead. The antonym is alive. And then long. The antonym is short. And the last is homonymy. Homonymy refers to the relationship between words that are spelled or pronounced the same way but hold different meaning. For example, bank, the meaning is of river. And then bank, the meaning is financial institution. The third materials is sentence meaning. Sentence meaning have 2 points are obvious. The first, the meaning of a sentence derived from the meaning of its constituent lexemes and from the grammatical meanings it contains. So, if you know all the lexical and grammatical meanings expressed in a sentence, you know the meaning of the sentence and vice versa. Second, at least if the sentence is a statement. If you know the meaning of the sentence, you know what conditions are necessary in the word for that sentence to be true. And then, when you use an adjective, meaningful means having meaning, whereas meaningless means lacking meaning. Meaningful as an adjective, having meaning, significant. And then grammatical. Grammatical is a feature by its own and should not be identified by acceptability, and so its acceptability should not be identified by its meaningfulness. And then acceptability. Acceptability is predicate of our linguistic data. At bottom, a big part of that data is judgment of the acceptability of a utterance of a sentence in a specific context. And last materials is new meaning, figurative language. Figurative language are expressing non-literal meanings, meanings that do not conform to the primary meaning of a word. The use of figurative language is confined to stories and poems. In fact, most of our everyday language use is non-literal. From what we say in casual conversations to what we hear in a weather report on the news or political speech. And then the most recognizable use of figurative language is metaphor. A metaphor, as Aristotle conceived it as we still understand it, is a figure of speech that set up an analogy between two word phrase. Something is something else. There are the type of metaphor. The first is dead metaphor, are those that are so conventionalized in everyday speech that we don't even realize they are metaphors. The second is mixed metaphors, are those in which part of different metaphors are telescoped into the utterance. And the third is personification, another subtype of metaphorical language. Give human attributes to something that is not human. The fourth is synesthesia, is a type of metaphorical language in which one kind of sensation is described in terms of another. The five is metonymy, refer to something by describing it in terms of something with which it is closely associated. And the last is synecdoche, is a specific type of metonymy in which we use a part of something to refer to the whole thing. And then similes differ from metaphor and metonymy in that they involve comparisons of two unlike things and usually involve the word like or as. Some famous similes. The first, um, suspicions climb all over her face like a kitten, but not a playful. Raymond Chandler. The second is exuding goodwill like a mortician's conversion in a pleasure. Daniel Berrigan. And the third, as good as gold. Charles Dickens. And the last is that hangs on her like an untimely frost. William Shakespeare. And then idiom. Idiom is are collocations of word or phrase with non-literal meanings. For example, kick the bucket. The meaning is die. Okay, that's all from me about my explanations or my review for the fourth topic of semantics. I say sorry for any mistake, and the last I say wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.